So this is session 2 of our AI Basics Workshop Series. I'm Sarah Beaver, Director of Marketing here at Operations Hero, and I'm so glad you're here. And a few quick housekeeping notes before we get going. We are recording it, so I just confirmed. So you will get the recording in your email by tomorrow. Your microphones are muted. We can't hear you, but the Q&A panel and the chat are wide open. So a lot of you are already in there. Please use that. Drop any questions or comments you have. I'll be monitoring the QA, and we do have about 10 minutes allotted at the end just to go through those questions and answers as they come up. We'll also have a couple of polls throughout the session, so be on the lookout for those and make sure you interact with those. And we're going to have a good time. All right. So go ahead on over to the next slide. There you go. Thank you. So you probably know at least one of these people here. But in case you don't, I want to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. First, we have Marshall Schroeder. Marshall is the Executive Director of Maintenance and Custodial at Conroe ISD, just outside of Houston. Conroe is one of the largest school districts in Texas. His team runs over 70 buildings, I think. And correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall. And most of you all will recognize, I think, this type of this type of maintenance that he runs at his school district. So he's our practitioner. He's going to walk us through how he uses AI, how and his team uses AI in their day-to-day, not in theory, but actually what they're doing. And of course, we also have the fabulous Pat Buchanan here with us. And if you didn't know, Pat is the CEO and co-founder at Operations Hero. And he helped write or did write the playbook, excuse me, for K-12 facility software. So he's here to really connect those dots between what Marshall's doing and then what is possible for you and your own buildings. And here's what really makes today different from what other webinars you might have sat through. So this isn't meant to just be a demo or a show and tell or a pitch, but this is meant to be a conversation between two people who have spent a lot of time doing this work. And we want to have a real honest conversation about what's really moving the needle and what isn't. So you'll see live data, you'll hear, well, real questions, and Marshall will probably show you a few things that he might do differently if he could start over today. So if you only saw the title today, you might be wondering what that 1,857 work orders number is. So hang tight, we'll get there in just a minute. Before I hand it over, though, I want to do a quick recap of session 1. So for those of you who joined session 1, welcome back. If you didn't, no problem. You can access the recording if you'd like to go back and watch it, but no big deal. I'll get you up to speed in about 2 minutes or less on what we covered, and then we'll dive into today's material. So the big idea that we really left with last time was a simple one. AI is another tool in your toolbox. Not a magic wand, not something coming for your job. It's a tool, right? Like a wrench, like the clipboard that we walk around with. So it's useful when you know what to use it for. It's useless when you don't, right? Just like any other tool. So we talked about 2 flavors of AI that really matter for the work that you do. And the first is what we call embedded AI. And that's the AI that is already working. So when you open your cell phone with your face, that's embedded ID. When your spam filter catches the junk before it goes to your inbox, that's embedded AI. When Waze, reroutes you in traffic, that's embedded AI. So you don't actually have a conversation with these types of AI. And then the second flavor is the one that most people mean when they talk about AI, and that's a large language model, also called an LLM. And that's the ChatGPT, the Claude, the Gemini, the Copilot, all of those tools. And these are the ones that you talk to, and they will do things for you, right? Like summarize a report, draft an email, help you think a problem through. And that's what we're going to talk more about today. How do you actually use those tools in your everyday, and how do you leverage those? So the big takeaway from session 1 was that both of these can do 3 things for your team. 1, save time on repetitive stuff. 2, level up your newer staff. And then 3, surface data you already have, but maybe you don't have time to actually look and dig into all of that data. And that's where Marshall's going to really get into it as well. All right. We also covered two ideas that turn on how to use AI, from turning it into this tool, right? And this kind of novelty thing that it has been over the past few years into an actual teammate. So the first one is that good prompts matter. So AI is not a vending machine, right? You don't just like push a button and get the bag of chips. You actually have to think through and know how to prompt it. So we went through quite a few examples last time, but one of the examples that we talked about was if you said, fix the water fountain, then AI is not going to really know what you're talking about and you'll get a generic answer. Whereas if your prompt is more like, hey, the wall mounted water fountain outside the third grade wing has low pressure, yada, 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 the more specific you are with it, then the better the results you're going to be for your output. So thinking it through it that way really will help you kind of like sharpen your outputs that you get. And then the second part that we really focused on last time was sensible guardrails. So we talked about two types of guardrails that you can easily put in place that really keeps things safer for you and your team. One is don't put anything into AI that you wouldn't put into an email to strangers. And then the second one is start low stakes. So pick tasks where mistakes are easy to catch and fix. And that's it. That's session one in a nutshell. Before we jump in, though, I do want to, before I hand it off to Pat, I'm going to put up a poll here, and then I will set back and I'm going to be monitoring the chat for you guys. Here we go. All right, Pat, take it away, and I'll go ahead and pull up this poll.
All right, perfect. I'll stop the sharing for a moment. I'll let your poll come up and then I'll reshare.
All right, great. It looks like it's working. So the question
Ah,
is,
beautiful.
have you used AI for work in the past year?
Oh, good. So we're seeing some sometimes. I like it. Oh, great. All right. See some everydays. Seeing a little mix, definitely mix between every day and sometimes. So I like it. Like it. Got some newbies as well, which that's perfect. Perfect. All right. All right. All
All
right,
right, I'm
good.
gonna, here we go, and share the results here.
All right, beautiful. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing back screen three. I will present. All right, perfect. All right, Sarah. Well, great intro there. So we've already went through a little bit about how AI fits into your workday. We kind of went through a little review. My focus here, I'll talk a little bit about how AI, how we use it inside of our platform here at Operations Hero. Most of our products, we've already put some version of AI in it. I see some folks here in the chat that use a lot of our different products on here. So all the way from our work order system, even all the way to energy, all those we have again, some flavor of AI incorporated into those. So again, I'm gonna focus a little bit more on the platform. Marshall, when he goes through his presentation, I want him to show you his real world examples. Reporting is one of those things when I talk to clients to say, hey, what would you like to do more of? What should you do more? And a lot of folks tell me constantly is, hey, I just don't have time to look at my data. I need to refine my data, make changes to my process, but I'm so busy in the day to day role of my organization. I just don't get time to go into dashboards, run a lot of reports. So Marshall's done a phenomenal job at that. So I'm going to have him go through and show you a lot of great examples of how he's using AI to do that. I'll go through and again show you again most of you are on this or have been using our system for a while, so that's great. I see some new folks on here as well, so we'll show just a couple of quick recaps of how folks are using AI already in our platform, and then we'll jump in and turn right over to Marshall. So let's do this. Let me get out of my mode here. Um, and I'm going to jump over to my little test account here for Operations Hero. So one of the things that I've run into clients recently, if they're going to ultimately be able to get better reporting and analysis in their platform over the course of time, then one big thing that they're going to have the opportunity to do in their system is to be able to go through and have good data. So I was a few moments ago, I was putting in a little sample work request. I'm getting ready to review that work order. And some of you that have workflow assignment rules will already have the system auto assign teams or contractors or individuals to work based on the trade or which campus it came from. Some of you use uh, priorities to bump up and down when the due date of that job should be. So they'll start show so you can start using that on some reports. How well are we getting work completed on certain number of days on our jobs? And then our system starts looking at your descriptions of your work orders and will give you some nice predictions on reason codes, craft categories. What's the most likelihood of past work order descriptions that might fit what trade or shop or team may do this work order? So we've done some enrichment AI inside the platform that we've embedded to try to help you categorize or classify data. So those are again another great area that we've come to use AI inside our platform. Now, a couple other ways that I know folks like to highlight is we say, well, what problems do folks have? Where can we use to help speed up manual processes? How can we use technology to automate that? So a lot of you have said in the past, well, it takes too long to capture time, materials, parts. So when you change the status of a job, then we want to make sure it's easy to post labor just by tapping buttons. Or if I'm a team lead, picking my team and quickly creating labor time for all of those, having schemas that make fields mandatory that we have to record certain comments or feedbacks when we solve a job. And some other AI that we've done is, hey, let's hold up the camera, hold up a receipt, and take a photo of that receipt. Or if you've already got a receipt in a PDF form from a vendor, a lot of folks have used that type of technology where, hey, let me take a picture of this receipt from a local hardware store. Let me upload a PDF copy or upload an image that we received from a vendor and just have our AI tool scrape that image and create cost transactions right from that image. So that's been a very powerful tool to help a lot of you save time from out having to enter all this data entry for every single one of these line items. This is just a fire extinguisher example I use a lot in my meetings where, hey, I just put all that cost on that work order just by taking that photo or taking that area. So again, those are some nice little challenges that we try to use AI to quickly get data in the system. In my past life, I did a lot of benchmarking, key performance indicators, and most of our clients never could capture assets in the system. That was a big gap. It's very powerful to have your assets in your system, but most people never had the time. It was just too many steps, too complex to create the asset, build the PM schedule. So that was another example that we've seen AI be very helpful. Hold up the camera again of that phone, tablet, computer, and then take a photo of a nameplate and then scrape that image. So I've got, again, another example that we'll use here. I've got a water heater that I snapped a picture of while I was on site in a maintenance shop over the last couple months. So I'll just upload that image. Our system, again, scrapes that image, looks for fields that it can match up in our system. Again, I can say, well, I also have maybe a QR code that I'm going to peel and stick on there, or maybe the unit already has one of these on it that I can use. Because that's the other powerful thing. Let's just walk up to that unit, scan it while we're in the platform, and see what PM work orders that we have for that unit. What work should we be performing? Again, those are some other nice little areas that we can use the system for to capture those. So I'm going to just create one for a moment. I'll pick one of my locations, and you'll see the system scrapes out serial number, model number. I can then go through and say, great, I want to take a photo of the asset. I already have one, so I'll select that one. And then some other nice little things we've added recently is I can add that to an existing PM schedule, or I can create another PM schedule right from scratch here while I'm in the product. And then along with that, some more AI functionality we've used is our system can also help you download tasks and procedures. What type of asset am I going to be doing PM on, and have the AI tools scan online, see what type of tasks and procedures that these manufacturers make available online, which most of them have AI indexed all their task procedures, inspections, and then we can download that. So again, some other challenges that, again, in my 32 years, has been very hard to get assets in the system. It's been hard to get a PM program started. It's been hard to capture time, parts, materials, to get that total ownership of cost so we can use it for our capital plan one day. So those are all pieces to the puzzle that we're early adopters on, and that's been very successful for us so far, of being able to use AI to help get data into platforms for our clients. All right, great. So again, I just wanted to highlight a few things there. I do have a couple other dashboards that I've highlighted and worked with other districts around the country on recently, of where some folks have said, "Hey, I've got all this data." Some folks have the data in our product already. Some people will say, "Well, even before I get this data in your platform, I need some help analyzing this data or even cleansing the data." Another big part of my job each day is, hey, when folks are starting to look at using our platform, well, how can I help them not start over from scratch? How can I take their existing data, map their data with our fields, and be able to import data into our platform? So that's something we've done since day one of our company. And that's another example of where I use AI every day. Some of your old systems you come from to our platform, they're pretty archaic. They don't have a lot of data integrity checks. I use AI to help fill in missing holes in your data, or help populate data, make some assumptions, fix the formatting on these date fields so it will be allowed to be able to import it right into our platform. Or I was in Oregon a couple of weeks ago speaking at their organization, their maintenance facility, and they were getting a lot of assessments that the state was providing for them. And they were trying to say, well, how can I use this data to highlight it or showcase it? So they were getting massive PDF files, Excel spreadsheets. And so we went through in some of our labs and just went through and said, okay, great, let's just take that data, give it to AI, and tell us to build an executive summary dashboard off that data, and go through and just take some of the charts, some of the data, and help us take our data, put it in a format, give us some help us visualize our data, and help highlight what we need to work on right away so we can put it in our capital planning product and develop plans and build things out. So that's, you've got a lot of data sources that you deal with day in, day out in your districts. You've got data in Excel, you got data in PDFs, you got data in your work order systems, from your finance systems. So a lot of times you can get a lot of data, but it's really hard to link that data together, match up, make a guesstimation on what school all these data sources should roll up to, so I can combine this data and do some reporting on it. So again, that's some other highlights that I've seen AI has been very helpful for, helping you with your capital planning data. Aging work, I work with some campuses where they want to go through and see what's the average age of work. We got dashboards in our product too, but sometimes it's, hey, I want to export this data out to an Excel spreadsheet, upload it into my AI tool, and then just ask some questions away to it. Now, if you do use certain AI tools like Claude, ChatGPT, they give you the functionality, like in my system here, of connecting directly to your systems like OperationsHERO, and just ask questions away to it, create work orders, post comments. And Marshall will go through some examples of that too. But we do know a lot of you, I like to always mention in these presentations, there's a lot of IT restrictions on what you can or cannot use for AI. So if you are a Google shop, then you're going to be, I'm sure, drifted into using Gemini, which is great. Or if you're a Microsoft, you're going to be using Copilot, another great tool. So a lot of that case, you're just going to be, and if you can't connect directly to your system like OperationsHERO, you can at least take data from the systems, export it out to Excel, upload it into your AI tool of choice, and then start asking questions away to it. And those are going to be some great examples that Marshall's going to go through and give you there. All right. So I just want to show a couple other examples there. And then, Sarah, you got any questions so far before we throw it away to Marshall for the main area here?
No, no questions coming through so far.
Okay. All right, Marshall, let's go ahead and we're going to turn it over to you. You should have the capabilities to share your screen there.
All right, should be seeing my screen now.
There we go. Got it.
All righty. So thank you, Pat. And I'll go through a couple. So mine are real world examples, and I'll try to share some of the stuff. So just really simple typing is something as simple as someone calling in and saying, hey, I know I put a work order in today. I use that on a daily basis. I just go in and type it, and it even accounts for your misspellings or your fat fingers, and it does it anyway. So that was just 3 work orders that were submitted today that I did about 15 minutes before the presentation. And then it'll ask you questions. Do you want more information? Do you want to see yesterday's work orders in case you didn't see what you wanted? And it'll go through and it'll drop off those work orders from the day before, and it'll tell you what the statuses are. And then, for instance, this is one that I typed in earlier today and was looking for. A campus called and said, I know I submitted a work order. This door hadn't been closing. So we combine not only OperationsHERO AI, I'll use ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Claude, just depends on what I'm doing. So for instance, this work order right here, the campus called and said that they put that work order in 2 weeks ago and the door wasn't fixed. Well, actually, they just put it in the day that the auditor came out and saw it. And so that we went and looked at that work order. So we use FastField in addition to. So our guys go out and they take and they attach a report to OperationsHERO, and that resides our history for that work order, and we're able to go directly to that work order. So when someone comes in and says, hey, I put this work order in, our guys actually go out and do a step further, and instead of just saying, yeah, they fixed it and putting a note on a work order, they submit that fast fill form, they attach it, which right here you see it's got a video link. So when the campus says, hey, your guys didn't fix it, we go a step further.
Yeah.
Our guys go take a video of it and it links it to FastField. The guys verify the door's closed. So they can't say a week from now that, hey, you guys never came out and fixed it. So what I found with using Claude is if you use and you just tell it to go find all of these work orders and make your report. Claude uses what they call tokens, and Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not the right word.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Use a number of tokens, and if Claude is going to OperationsHERO and it's got a connection, and our district has approved me to use Claude, as long as there's no student data in it, and we don't use student data, so that's not an issue for us. So I just simply go in and I search the criteria for what I want on a specific report. I export it into Excel. So that's my work order detail report. That's everything that's open. And then I'll go back into OperationsHERO and I'll search for everything that's closed in a week, because that's another key important data for me. And then it gives me everything that was complete, that's in the status of complete, closed, or review for that week. And that's just for that week's data. And then I'll go back in and I'll find out transaction labor data for my guys for the week, again, for that week only. So that's another key component for us in our reporting. And again, I pull that to Excel. And then our IPO, so we issue internal purchase orders for every purchase that we make. Our guys are responsible for getting an IPO, turning in that receipt as soon as they make that purchase within a day or so. And so all of that data is captured as well. So it keeps up with, so when I go to my reports, you'll see the difference in the reports. So these are, let me see which one that is. Those are the weekly labor summary reports. So our guys go in, so you'll see I pull these every morning, typically run them before I actually leave my house, and whenever before I get to work in the morning, before I leave my house, I drop these in. So these guys have these reports for them when my guys get here. They have a link to a Google Drive so that all I do is copy and paste it over the same file name so that they can go ahead and pull. It gives them all of their open work orders, their statuses. It gives them their labor summary for that week, how many work orders they worked on that week. It gives them their all work orders in that category. It gives them their over 30. It gives them the last time that they updated those work orders. So those are probably projects. It lists their old IPOs, and it gives an IPO listing of who they're assigned to.
So Marshall, that's an example where you've just given it a bunch of data and just told it to give you all these different views that you can flip through each week when you're kind of refreshing the data, right?
That's correct. And if I don't like the data, so I'll send them to my guys and they'll tell me, hey, this guy's not on my crew, or somebody moved from one crew to the next. That's just going into that, keeping that same chat open and just going in and telling, hey, I need to move this guy to a different one. And it'll move it for you. It'll move it in the report for you. So all of those are individual. That's their weekly reports. So I'll pull those on weekends. So on Monday morning, that's for their whole week before, so they can look at all of their data. It tells them what workflow they're in, the statuses that they're in. It'll give them how many days old they are. So it gives them all of that data directly on one report. And then it gives an all workflow. So that's that we send out to everybody that's kind of involved in our work order system.
Oh, Marshall, you like colors, a lot of colors on that. Oh,
I
wow.
do. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I try to get a little bit of color in it and make it kind of emphasize what I want to see. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it gives, depending on what workflow they're in, it'll give them that information as well. So not only do we pull it for our side, we separate all of our work. So some people just run everything into one work order and categorize it differently. We try to separate. So if I'm doing capital, if you're maintenance guys and they say, capital is not really maintenance, and that's true, but we're all forced into doing some things that aren't necessarily always maintenance. So we separate that into a different workflow. If we have a natural disaster, so those are natural disaster work orders that we keep up with, or project work orders that have nothing to do with capital as well. And we try to separate it in different workflows for our PNC, excuse me, for all of our warranty work orders. We transfer those, or we move those over to the PNC workflow, so it's separated in for their workflow so they can keep up with their work as well. And then they get a separate report as well. Plus they're also included into this one. So out of our warehouse inventory, I try to keep a close eye on what exactly we spend in the warehouse. So our total inventory value in our warehouse is a little over 3.5 million. And we do our best to keep everything we can possibly keep in our warehouse so that our guys don't have to go to the store on a daily basis. All that's in inventory direct.
Yeah.
We encourage our guys to make sure they're tracking about 7.5 hours a day. They work 8, they get 2 15-minute breaks. So the goal is for all of our guys to track about 7.5 to 8 hours a day on their work orders. And then making sure that they're putting their issue transactions. We check it out of our warehouse into their truck pools off. And the only way they can get it out of their truck pool is to add it to a work order. When they make a purchase, they also add that purchase transaction onto the work order, the amount, the IPO number, and what vendor they spent it with. So that helps us keep that information. So when I want to pull a report, I'm able to pull that report and know exactly, or at least for the most part, a pretty good estimation on what I spend per campus. So I can go through and pull those cost locations and determine how much money I spend at each campus.
Yeah, Marshall. So a couple questions coming in
Sure.
through everyone, and I'll throw a couple out at you as well.
Sure.
So a little clarifying stuff that I see through some of the chats coming in. So yeah, we do definitely have dashboards built inside the platform. Some folks, that's good enough for them. But I will say, based on how you run your departments, usually you get you're at a board meeting, you're meeting with folks there. Usually you get a lot of questions sprung at you. Say, hey, how do you do with this? Or can you tell me what happened with this project? That's another great, I know that's another great use of AI that I know you've mentioned you've done before, Marshall. When you get like questions in board meetings, some questions on this, how long would it take you to pull some of this data if you weren't able just to throw it in AI and ask questions to it?
This is a good example, Pat. So I think this was last year. We got that question posed to us. They want to know how many, not only how many roof leaks we had, but how many times we've issued sealant tile out. As I made the
Mm.
report, it kept growing and growing. And so I added in there. They originally only wanted to know about Hurricane Beryl, and then they wanted to know about Winter Storm Uri. Uh, and then I threw that data into Claude, and I said, okay, first I exported all of my anything and everything that had the word roofs, leaks, or ceiling tiles, or spotted ceiling tiles, or wet ceiling tiles, and I pulled
Yeah.
all that data out with an Excel, and then I searched through that data, and then I created this. And in the middle of it, Claude asked me, well, I see that you ask about Winter Storm Uri and Hurricane Beryl. Do you want to throw in derecho storm?
Mm.
So it asked me if I wanted that data. And then so I popped this data out and we took it. And this is just an image. It's not an Excel document. It's not manipulable. So I can send that data directly to our board and say, okay, this is the report you asked for.
Great. Okay, good, good. Also another question, and for you, I was somebody, of course, yelled at me, told me I skipped. I was going so fast, I skipped over something. Do any of your technicians use Hero Assist? Can you tell any stories around that? That was another question thrown at me internally
Um,
here.
I, the guys are very skeptical about AI. So
No, no.
yeah, very much so. But
Uh,
they do use it. A few
mhm,
guys, and I don't know if you used the AI tool on the work order.
mhm.
But using that tool and be able to go in there and say, hey, I'm gonna, if you want to try something that's pretty cool, just saying, hey, I'm going to change a light bulb. What do I need to do? It'll tell you down to the detail of getting your ladder, make sure your ladder's the right height, check this, check that. If is it an LED fixture, is it a fluorescent fixture, or it'll go through all of those details.
Yeah,
It'll
sure.
ask
Yeah.
you all those questions, and it'll give you good details for sure.
Yeah, safety notes, warnings. Development team's been done good on the work orders to PM tasks to make sure it's including safety parameters around when it's helping you build a PM schedule or build those notes too, for sure. Oh yeah, yeah. Other things that came in that I thought was worthwhile. Today's day of or age of AI. Um, yeah, a lot of people refer to it. We're in the dial-up phase. When you first started using the internet, it would take a while just to get connected to the internet. You were plugging your phone line in. It would take a while just to do any search or anything. That's really where we're at with AI right now. We're in the early days. Sometimes the AI doesn't quite get it right. It takes it time to go through and recycle it. And and for those of you that are on a school AI, or even some of you are even paying for your own personal editions out there, and you only get a certain number of tokens a day or a certain number of hours before it resets. So it is important to say, okay, let's work on our prompting, be more specific, and especially like Marshall's example, it's great. The smaller mid-sized campuses out there, just use if you're using Claude, Chat GPT, use it a way to create work orders, search for work orders, post a comment on all my open work orders that have aged more than 90 days, and ask for my team to give an update. So our AI is very interactive, helping you chat, prompt with it. But if you're doing a lot of reporting, you're preparing for a big board meeting, I would say definitely like Marshall does, since his volume's so large, it'll just eat up his tokens with the data he's sending to it. Export it in those cases, big reports, export it to Excel, get some of your data in a format where you can upload it so it doesn't burn through all your tokens of just searching and downloading the data from the system for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like starting in a new relationship, Pat. It's got to learn you, and the more it learns about you and how you type it, and some of the things, mine is 100% work. I don't, if I go in and type in Claude, what do you know about me? It's going to tell me that I spend too much time with OperationsHERO and I do a lot of work order reports.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's good. That's a great. I mentioned that in a lot of my classes when I go around the country. I said you want to be amazed about what AI knows about you. Ask it that very question.
mhm, mhm.
Hey, what do you know about me? So just based on your searches you're doing, how you're using AI, it'll be very specific tell you great examples of how you're using AI, or all the sports teams that you look up a lot, all the betting lines you look at. It'll give you very specifics there and tell you maybe you should pick a better hobby than sports betting. So it'll sometimes it's blunt to you and tell you how bad you're doing at certain activities, like myself there.
Yeah, Rick, our technology guy told him that he needs to spend more time with his wife and less time with AI.
See it there? Yeah, see, there you go. All right. Let's see what else. What else? Oh yeah, see, I see some other feedback in the chat. I see some advice. Paul Fletcher, yeah, for our support team. He said his advice was to think of it as an intern. You have to guide it and use it a lot about kind of help you guide it through its learning process. Yeah, that's a good one, Paul. Very nice. Very
And don't
nice.
delete your chats. Once you get something right, leave that chat and name it.
Hmm.
It can run triggers. So when you tell it to run a trigger and you've got the report exactly the way you want it,
Yep.
tell it
Yep.
to create a trigger, and then you can download that file, and all you have to do is pop that file in, put your data files in, and it'll run exactly what you ran before.
Great example. Great example. Okay. Um, all right, look through here. What else do we have coming in so far? Great. All right, Marshall. Anything else you like to summarize on what you're doing so far with it, how it's going with the team?
We're actually getting ready for hurricane preparedness, and let me see if I took and did our after action reviews, and I put our notes in. So every time we go through a storm, our management team, leadership team gets together, and we add in our notes. And so it's about that time of the year where we're getting close to that hurricane season. And so over the last week or so, I've just dropped in all of my notes and say, hey, based on my previous notes from that I've kept and my after action reviews, can you create me a couple page hurricane preparedness guide that I ought to present at a safety meeting in the coming weeks?
Mhm.
And so I just went in and plopped it in there, and it plopped out this pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, any type of plans, you're going out, you're buying some equipment, you want to do some analysis on, hey, look at my work history and help me decide which I'm down to between two manufacturers. Give me some advice on which piece of equipment to purchase or buy. Those are other good sources to have it look through your work history and help pull some of that out there, for sure. Let's see what else. Anybody else?
You can use those tools in your work order system too, Pat. Hey, if you've got your assets in there, tell me which ones that I've had to work on the most.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, definitely. Yeah, I'm developing my capital plan. Help me update. I know Benson's on here from Raven Gap. He did a great job with his assets. He was one of the first folks who went out and scanned and created his assets using AI. Now he's at a point where he's going around and saying, "Hey, I got to put these in the capital plan for replacement." He's using AI to help update the replacement cost, time frame, look at my work history, and see, there's always the stats out there of um, to go through. And if I've got certain issues coming up, I got emergency work orders. Well, how much does the emergency work order cost versus a PM? If you're going to have those kind of failures, it goes through and helps you out a lot with that for sure. Um, I see Benson posted a question. How do I convince my CFO to let me get Claude like Marshall?
Good luck. I'm still paying
Hey,
for
that
mine.
that's another area where you can ask AI for some help. How do I sell this to my CFO for sure, right? And of course, Paul Fletcher's throwing out. Don't forget it's still hurricane season here. Go Cane! So we're uh, oddly enough, we had a great a hockey fan base here in North Carolina of all places here. All right, other questions? Anybody have any other questions like to put in the chat? So again, at the bottom, you've got a chat window. You can throw them in there if you have some other questions. Great feedback. Yep. Okay, I will do that. All right, I'll share my screen again. I had some questions, some other early Operations Hero clients side chatted me and asked me to show my screen again. So I will. So I did pull up, I pulled up, I'm logged in as a technician here in the system. So if my technicians are working on a work order, or I've got some summer help and they're helping me with certain projects, They need some assistance. Marshall was mentioning that a minute ago. On each one of your workflows, you've got the ability to turn on Hero Assist for your work orders. So if you do want to give the capabilities of saying, hey, let me take a picture of this fire alarm panel, it's got an error code on it, or this security system has an error code on it. Those are other great examples that I've seen other clients use. All right, let's see. I had someone give me a one the other week while I was on campus with them, where they had this program and it had this error code up. So I just copied and pasted the error code. Now, of course, I could take a photo of that. And if your work order has an asset on it, it'll also look at the model serial number of that asset and pass it to AI to try to help you with that problem. So here I'm just going to copy and paste some text into that work order. And then, so I can just, as Marshall mentioned, hey, type the symptoms that I'm running into with this problem, hit search, and it'll go through and look it up, take a photo of the error code that it may be on the screen there, and then it'll go through and give some diagnosis there. And you'll see, okay, so this was a CO2 alarm that folks was having. It's a non-recoverable hardware malfunction. And so again, it's always a good, it'll go through and give you some tips, maybe what we can do to help diagnose this. And then like Marshall mentioned earlier too, the tools, what type of tools do I need to make sure I take on site when I'm going to work on this problem? If I have to go somewhere else and pick up some items, those are some other nice things. If you need to save this and come back to it, there's even a little bookmark that we added to the work order. So you can even save that to the work order. So you can come back and look at that a little bit later on too. So again, those are some other good little tips that I saw in the chat. Folks, someone side chatted me and asked me to go into a little bit more details there as well. So yeah, good stuff. Other questions so far? Sarah, I think you had
Yeah.
another poll or other things you wanted us to cover.
Oh, thanks. Well, I know we're almost at time, but I did want to circle back to that 1,857 still work orders surface number. Marshall, I know you kind of mentioned it, but
Mm,
I want to make sure we address that since that was the hook here. So tell us a little bit more about where that number came from,
yeah,
Marshall.
yeah.
Yeah, so that was just a screenshot of that day. That changes on a daily basis. So if I pulled it today, it'd be a lot different.
Mm,
So when I first started at Claude, it was that's probably all I could get out of the tokens that I had before I started using the spreadsheet, and it kind of went kaput and it locked me out. And early on, it locked me out about every 2 hours. I'd put something in there, and just kind of learning how to not only how for me to use Claude more effectively and how I could get more out of it, but also kind of training and learning exactly what language I needed to use and how I needed to tell it what I wanted. And that's your biggest battle is
mm,
your terminology and Claude's and Operations Hero are going to be very different. And you keep manipulating and you tell it different things to do, or you want it presented in a different way, or you want it, you don't want to, Pat gave me a hard time about my colors. How you want to do that heat map. And
yeah,
I've learned from now on is, hey, from now on, my heat map, this is my heat map colors, and I want to use heat map
you're right.
every time.
Yep.
And I don't have to re-explain that again. If I designate, like for instance, PNC's workflow is maroon with bolded white text, that's always going to be their
Mm-hmm.
text. If it's archive work orders and Pat mentioned, pulling that data over. When we moved over to Operations Hero, we brought in, I think it was right at like 800, 790,000 work orders. If I
Yes.
remember right, Pat, look at
Yeah.
Pat posing his
Yeah.
eyes and shaking his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was a lot of work orders. Yes.
Yeah. So I think, for us, we wanted to have all of our work order history and as much data as we could possibly pull for historical sake. And so we pulled all of those in. And so even from we've been with Operations Hero, we launched officially in May of last year.
Mm,
And we still have some, archive work orders that we're going to keep open until we're able to do that work. And uh, those are archive work orders are always going to be a black field with a white bolded text. And so now
mm.
it knows every time I have an archive, it automatically does it. It puts
Yeah.
that to my project, or it puts that to my work orders every time. My heat mapping is 1 to 3 is green, and 3 to 7 is yellow, and 7 to 29 is orange, and greater than 30 days is red with white text. So, I mean, it knows that so I don't have to retype that every time now.
Yeah, and then I see another good question that came in that Benson asked as well. Marshall, if are using like projects in Claude or artifacts or skills, are you doing any of that part with your stuff yet, or are you just reusing the
I,
prompts mainly that you've
I have a
bookmarked?
I have a couple of projects. For the most part, the stuff
Okay.
that I run every day is just save chats. I have about 30 chats that I
Hmm.
keep open, and I think the max is 30. So whenever I get up there, and it tells me I need to delete a chat, or Claude only allows you to have 100 attachments on an individual chat.
Hmm.
So if you download that file and then you can
Right.
add it to a new chat, you just have to close the other one.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I shared my screen. Like we use some like here for our company, Operations Hero, we use some projects, some skills here. Like the support team, they get a lot of you send them, hey, here's my listing of 25 users, first name, last name, email. They can go to this user import, copy and paste that data in, or some of you have went through and send me, hey, here's a picture of my school layout. And then we just take that photo, give it to this skill here in Operations Hero, and then it takes that picture or text and puts it in an import template where we can just push a button and import locations, users. We're starting to build it out for assets and other little components of the system that we're using AI to help shape data or do some repeatable tasks that we come up and doing over and over and over again here. So yeah, we use it a lot here, even as our company, and share it amongst people. Now with us, we're Claude is our AI tool here with our Operations Hero. So everybody's got a license of Claude that they're using to chat, design software, build it, all those different tools that we're using. So we use it for a lot of different little
I have a feature
situations.
request, Pat.
Mm.
I have a feature request. So on assets, if you attach more than one pictures, it doesn't display it.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you make it the first picture that you display?
yeah. It's the little thumbnail feature is something that we've done some little tweaks to. We did add some of you have found this. We did add a section where if you do select a group of assets now, you can go through and say, okay, all 100 of these assets have the same photo and these two photos, stock photos of it. We did add some bulk updates where you can go through there, but still, the when you touch the button or click the button, it shows a little differently there with the thumbnail based on whichever it picks the first image. I think right now still. Some of you that are on the early capital planning HQ platform, we're starting to build a lot more asset lifecycle planning modeling programs into it as well. I know Benson's here is on that early adopter program. We're trying to connect more of the pieces and have AI give some more suggestions. When is your payback on that asset if you replace it too, and kind of close that loop that way too. That's another nice little plug that we've been doing there as well.
There was
All
one
right,
other
Sarah.
question. There's one other
Yes.
question I'm not sure we got to, but in the
Okay.
Q&A is how would you go about convincing maintenance technicians and or personnel to get more comfortable with using AI in their day-to-day workflow?
To me, it's just time. Give them time to, once one or two, kind of see it, use it, it kind of spreads.
Mm,
Some of the guys that are less computer savvy,
mm.
I'm happy that they're putting their labor and their purchase and their issue
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
transactions on their work order. So I'm not going to push that envelope too much, but I think the younger guys that are coming in and they're a little bit more comfortable with technology, if you can get them to kind of
Yeah.
start using it, and
I like that.
yep. So I mean, it's a little tough for sure.
Yeah, and I will say, you just look when I go all around the country and I go to these maintenance associations and I'm speaking and our energy and I'm talking about what is a one of the first things I ask is my icebreaker is what do you think of when you hear the term AI? And I would say everybody used to say, "Hey, AI is going to replace my job. It's going to take my job. It's going to take my job." That was always been the concern for most time when I go around the country. That's the number one little feedback to people when I say just throw it out, just speak it out, and that's usually what I hear. And I will say, especially when I was out in Oregon a couple weeks ago, those folks they do a whole AI track to teach people on the maintenance folks how to get comfortable with using AI, how to prompt, how to search. So that was one of the I was very impressed with how they've done it and started to embrace it more. So it's coming. It's like anything. It's going to take time. But Marshall's right. If you get somebody to start using it and somebody else see they've got that cool tool and they're getting recognized for it, then others definitely are going to start asking to start using it as well. It's just like when trying to get technicians to go from paper to start using the smartphone or a tablet. Once a few folks started seeing it, they started getting stuff done quicker. They talk about it in lunch breaks, then it started spreading fast.
That was an easier transition for me, Pat. I just took the copy machines away and took the paper out and
Yeah, the
just said, you're
paper's
either
gone.
going to
Yeah.
use it or else, bud.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, Sarah, what else? Anything else we need to cover?
I don't see any other question. Wait,
Yeah, great stuff.
one more question coming in.
Okay.
Is there any AI training in the technicians' videos?
Um, Probably not. Paul and I have been talking recently that we probably definitely need to update some of our YouTube videos.
Mhm.
Where the bulk. It's great that we do enhancements every week. That's phenomenal, but it doesn't take but a few months, and then our videos get outdated pretty quickly. So yeah, that's good. That's a good call out. We'll take that to our summer interns that will be helping us out. We'll have them do some videos for us. Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, this has been great. Thank you all so
Yeah.
much. Any other questions from our audience?
All right, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, everyone. You'll be getting an email probably tomorrow morning with a recording and also a survey. And also something we didn't mention, but we have an AI readiness plan that we put together. So you'll get the link to that as well that you can put together and work
Beautiful.
on with your team.
All right. All right. As always, everybody, Marshall, thank you for your time. Sarah, thank you. Everybody else out there, thanks for carving out the time and watching the recording. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Care.